So I would like to continue the lesson that is excretory products and their elimination. We have completed a part of the lesson. I would like to continue further. The units of kidney function, we have the nephrons. The nephrons are the structural and functional units of the kidney. And according to morphology, according to functional aspects, we have two different types of nephrons. One, the cortical nephrons, another one, juxtamedullary nephrons. The most common type of nephrons found in majority of actually the kidneys are the cortical nephrons. And whereas the juxtamedullary nephrons are found only in some nephrons, not in all cases. And what is the difference between these two regarding the morphology? The loop of Henle is very short in the case of cortical nephrons, whereas in the case of juxtamedullary nephrons, they have very long loop of Henle. And again, because of the presence of very long loop of Henle, they extend into the medullary region. That is the reason they have given the name juxtamedullary nephrons. Whereas in the case of cortical nephrons, the loop of Henle is found only in the cortical region. Only a little bit extends into the medulla. And regarding the functional aspects, the glomerular filtration rate is higher in the case of extramedullary nephrons when compared to the cortical nephrons. You can see in the next diagram. See the difference between cortical nephron and juxtaglomerular nephron. And normally these nephrons have 15% large perfusion. That is, we have large filtration rate. And also because of the length of that is endless loop is more, the reabsorption rate is also more. And here low perfusion and also low glomerular filtration rate. The amount of filtrate produced per minute is less in the case of cortical nephrons when compared to the juxtaglomerular nephrons, where you have the rate of glomerular filtration is always higher because of the morphological aspect, because of the too much length of the handless loop. You see that one, it is extending into the medulla, but it is not extending into the medulla, only into the outer medulla, not into the internal medulla. Whereas this one is extending deeper into the inner medulla also. So these are some of the morphological and functional activities of the two nephrons. Now, what do you mean by vasarect? You know that one, the nephrons have the structure the glomerulus. The glomerulus is being normally supplied with blood through afferent arteriole. The one which is entering into the glomerulus is called afferent arteriole. The one which is leaving from it is called efferent. After leaving from the glomerulus, the efferent arteriole divides into furthermore capillaries, forming the second network of capillaries. And they're all together called as what is called peritubular capillaries, as they normally surround the remaining part of the tubule. They are called peritubular capillaries. They form a network around the remaining part of the tubule. And some of these peritubular capillaries are normally loop-like, straight and parallel to this, what is called actually the nephron. So some of the blood capillaries, those capillaries which are parallel, straight, that is why the name is given recta. The meaning for that one Latin, thin wall and loop-like, are called vasarect. And normally the vasarect, we'll see in this picture, the blood flows in opposite direction in the two limbs of the vasarect. Suppose if you are, for example, taking the vasarect. So in the case of vasarect, suppose you're taking, for example, a picture. This is the blood vessel, the vasarect. This is actually the descending limb of vasarect. This is ascending limb of vasarect. Now the flow of blood actually towards the downward direction. In the descending limb, it is towards what is called the medulla of the kidney. And in the ascending limb of vasarect, it is normally towards the cortical region. So the flow of blood is in two different directions. That is also forming a counter current mechanism. So this is actually a loop like what is called vasarect blood vessel. Plays in combination with or in parallel with what is called, you have the loop of Henle. Now this is the loop of Henle. Here you see that one, the flow of filtrate in this direction towards what is called medulla in the descending limb, and that is towards the cortex in the ascending limb. So here also you have a mechanism what is called counter current. Now this one is what is called vasarect. It looks like blood capillary. Here the flow of blood is in opposite directions. Just actually in the descending limb of vasa recta, the blood flows towards the medulla, and in the ascending limb, it is normally moves towards the cortex. And it is in parallel with what is called the Handler's loop. There you have the filtrate is moving down in the descending limb of Handler's loop, and it is moving up in the ascending limb of Handler's loop. So we have actually a countercurrent mechanism that we could see about this one. So anyway, we have the vasa recta consists of normally just two limbs. The blood flows in opposite direction, the two limbs of the vasa recta. Blood towards the renal medulla in the descending limb and flows towards the renal cortex in the ascending limb. We'll see the picture later. Now the mechanism of urine formation. So there are three major steps during the formation of urine that is being brought about by the nephrons, the ultimate functional units of kidney. So the first stage is nothing but the filtration at the glandular level, that is called ultrafiltration or glandular filtration. And after filtration has been completed, we have a filtrate collecting the renal tubule that is being actually, that is reabsorbed some of the useful materials from that one when it is passing through different parts of the nephron, and that process called reabsorption. And finally, some of the materials which have escaped filtration are being absorbed by the epithelial cells of the nephron at different regions from the blood, and they are secreted into the filtrate. That process called secretion or tubular excretion. So anyway, you have three different stages during the formation of urine. One, glandular filtration at the Malpighian body level, another one, reabsorption at the tubular level, and secretion selectively at different places or different, just actually the positions of the nephrons or the tubule. Now the first stage, glandular filtration. So normally the kidney receives blood from the heart. Per minute, the amount of blood that reaches the kidney is about 1200 ml. It is equivalent to 20 to 25% of the cardiac output, or 1/5 of the blood that is being pumped by the ventricle from the heart. So normally, when this blood reaches the glandular through the afferent arteriole, the effective filtration takes place at the level of the Malpighian body, where filtration occurs. Hence, it is called as a biological filter. And normally, this ultrafiltration is the first stage in the formation of urine. It is the first step in formation, which is normally carried out by the glandulus. A glandulus is nothing but a ball of capillaries, what is in already, formed with the repeated branching of afferent artery. Once again, actually all the capillaries reunite together to leave from the glandulus by means of afferent artery. If you compare the diameter of the afferent and efferent arteriole, the afferent arteriole is having much higher diameter when compared to the efferent arteriole. The diameter of afferent arteriole is always higher than that of the efferent arteriole. That is a basic factor responsible for filtering the various materials. So, filtration occurs at the Malpighian body level, which is acting as a biological filter. The amount of just the blood that reaches the kidney is about 1100 to 1200 ml, equivalent to 20 to 25% of the cardiac output, or equivalent to 1/5 of the blood that is being pumped by each, that is actually ventricle, during systole period. Now, actually the filtration happens occur through a structure. That structure is called filtration unit. You see that one I mentioned already, the pressure inside the glandular capillary is normally always high when compared to the normal capillaries. This is because of the incoming arteriole is having higher diameter than those of the outgoing afferent arteriole, which creates a high pressure. And the filtration occurs normally through a structure which constitutes what is called a filtration unit. The filtration unit is formed of three components through which only the various materials are being filtered out. Number one, the endothelium of blood capillaries. The single layer of blood capillaries is called endothelium. The second one, the epithelium of the Bowman's capsule. A cup-shaped structure formed of actually cuboidal epithelium, and that capsular epithelium is actually formed of two layers. The outer layer is called the parietal epithelium, the inner layer is called as a visceral epithelium. The visceral epithelium is normally playing a major role in the filtration process. So, number one, the endothelium, nothing but the epithelium of capillaries. Number two, the epithelium of Bowman's capsule, which is arranged in two layers. namely outer parietal epithelium and inner vesical epithelium, in between which there is a space, what is called a capsular space. And the last one, the basement membrane, a membrane that is being formed between the two, that is the endothelium and the epithelium of Bowman's capsule. So all these things together constitute what is called the filtration unit, because through which one of the various materials being filtered out. Now here is a picture showing the filtration unit. I mentioned already we have three components. Now this is what is called the endothelium. The red layer is called endothelium, which is having small openings. That is why actually the endothelial cells with the fenestrate, the meaning for that one presence of small pores. Then the next one what we have, that is what is called the basement membrane for the attachment of endothelium and also for the visceral epithelium. Now the visceral epithelium actually formed of cells what are called podocytes. What represented in the form of blue and green, just actually the blobs, they represent the complete podocytes, actually the podocytes processes, not the cells. The podocytes you'll see in the next picture, a complete cell having many interdigitating processes. So these processes, the processes are formed in the form of what are called the foots. They are called the foot processes, maybe in the form of primary or secondary processes, in the form of interdigitating processes. And between the processes or the foots, we have the filtration slits or openings. Through this one, actually the products being filtered. It is about 800 to just actually 900 angstrom in diameter. And each one is also having a diaphragm just for closing or opening. A small diaphragm is also there for the filtration slit or the filtration pore. So anyway, the filtration unit is from the common number 1, the endothelial cells, common number 2, the basement membrane, and common number 3, here it is nothing but actually the foot processes of the third layer, what we have, the visceral epithelium of the Bowman's capsule. And I'll show another picture, the next one, you can see. Now this is the entire diagram, a sectional view of the Bowman's capsule. Now I mentioned already, we have filtration unit is formed of mainly the endothelium of blood capillaries here. Then we have the basement membrane also. Now this is what is called the capsular epithelium, Bowman's capsular epithelium. And this is the outer capsular epithelium, what is called parietal epithelium. And this one is the inner one, what is called the visceral epithelium, which is being formed of cells what are called the podocytes. The podocytes are nothing but structurally complete cells having some interdigitating processes. And these processes are called the foot processes. And in between which we have the openings or the pores or the slit pores or the slit holes, and through which only the various materials are being filtered out. We have other components also represented in this actual diagram, what is called juxtaglomerular apparatus. So the kidneys have certain inbuilt mechanisms for the regulation of glomerular filtration rate. One such inbuilt mechanism is nothing but juxtaglomerular apparatus. This apparatus here I represented, just like the complete here itself, is formed of three components. One, macula densa. This is nothing but actually the structure. So the juxtaglomerular apparatus is a compound structure, a sensitive structure, a built-in mechanism present within the kidney for regulation of the glomerular filtration rate. And it is being formed of three components. Component number 1, that is macula densa. This is nothing but actually the tubular epithelium of the distal convoluted tubule. Then the second component we have juxtaglomerular cells. This is the second one, juxtaglomerular cells. And these cells are nothing but actually the cells of the afferent arteriole, nothing but smooth muscles. And also we have Lassie cells. And these Lassie cells are actually formed in the angle of what is called the vascular, we can call this angle as a vascular angle, the one which is formed between the two arterioles, afferent and efferent arterioles. So we have Lassie cells, what are called the glandular cells, we'll see later about in the next diagram or the next notes. And here they are normally formed at the angle, what is called the vascular angle, just formed by efferent and afferent arteriole. So a combination of Lassie cells, then macula densa cells, and also juxtaglomerular cells all combined together to compound structure, to form a compound structure, juxtaglomerular apparatus. I will give you the notes in detail there following just actually lecture. So anyway, these are all the components, and we are talking about the podocytes only. The podocytes are nothing but the visceral epithelial cells concerned with what is called the passage of materials during the filtration process. One of the component of the filtration unit. Here is actually the notes for these podocytes. The visceral epithelial cells, the second layer, the innermost layer of the Bowman's capsule, they are called as the podocytes. And these are all structurally complete cells that possesses, I mentioned already, interdigitating processes. Now, actually, adjacent food processes, many food processes are formed, and between the adjacent processes, we have small slit openings having a dimension of 20 to 30 nanometer. And these are all called the filtration slits or the slit pores, and supported by some cells from the what is called just actually the capillaries. They are called the mesangial cells. These are all not necessary, anyway, how to know that one. So the food processes in between which we have openings what are called 20 to 30 nanometer. And actually I mentioned before that 800 angstrom, that is not so in some book, it is like that only. But we are generally speaking the split openings have a dimension of 20 to 30 nanometer for filtration to occur. Now here is a picture of podocyte, a complete podocyte. Here I represented two podocytes. Now this is podocyte number 1, this is podocyte number 2. It is a complete cell, structurally complete, having processes. What I mentioned, this is all the interdigitating processes or food processes. And one such large process where you have the nucleus is present is called primary process. And others are called the secondary processes or pedicels, or simply we can say the food processes. And we have between which you see that when the slit opening, through these openings only we have the filtration happens to occur. And that is also provided the diaphragm for closing. A simple picture showing the podocytes. Now the blood flows through the capillaries in what is the mechanism of formation of filtrate by a process of filtration. I mentioned already nearly 1100 to 1200 ml of blood flows through the capillaries of the glomerulus, where the blood pressure is comparatively high. The reason for that one, the incoming blood is more and the outgoing blood is less. That is, the incoming afferent arteriole is having what is called a large diameter compared to the outgoing one, so that the PP is comparatively high inside the glomerular capillaries. That is a major force for creating actually the filtration process. Now there are different pressures are operating in bringing out the filtration process. One such pressure is the hydrostatic pressure, also called as the one which is found occurring in the blood capillaries. It is also called as forward pressure of 55 millimeter mercury. It is a pressure existing in the afferent arteriole of the glomerulus. The pressure existing in the afferent glomerular capillaries is called the forward pressure, or it is also called what is known as actually the hydrostatic pressure, the incoming pressure. It is about 55 millimeter mercury. This pressure is opposed by a certain cumulative effect of what is called opposition pressures. This pressure is normally opposed by certain pressures. They are operating together, hence called as a cumulative effect of the opposition pressures. So particularly two important pressures created, one by the blood colloidal protein. So that is called blood colloidal osmotic pressure. Blood colloidal osmotic pressure, that is the one created by the proteins formed in the blood. It is about 30 millimeter mercury. It is about 30 millimeter mercury. And other pressure, the one which is existing in the capsule of the Bowman's organ, that is called capsular hydrostatic pressure. It is about 15 millimeter mercury. So the hydrostatic pressure occurring in the afferent arteriole is called the forward pressure. It is about 55 millimeter mercury. And actually a cumulative effect of just opposition pressures. Two pressures together operating against this forward pressure. One such is called PCOP, blood colloidal osmotic pressure. It is about 30 millimeter mercury. And then the hydrostatic pressure that is occurring normally in the blood capsule, what is called the Bowman's capsule, where you have the collection of filtrate. And that is called as capsular hydrostatic pressure. It is about just 15 millimeter mercury. So altogether 45 millimeter mercury, that is the apposition pressure, is normally opposing the hydrostatic pressure occurring in the blood, what is called the forward pressure. We can see. Now, the hydrostatic pressure of the blood is always higher, what I mentioned, 55 millimeter mercury when compared to what is called the opposing pressures. The one which is exists in the plasma proteins and in the capsule. So we have just actually two pressures opposing against the hydrostatic pressure of the blood. One is the blood colloidal osmotic pressure that is created by the proteins of 30 millimeter mercury. Another one is created only by the fluid that is collected in the capsule, that is called capsular hydrostatic pressure. It is about 50. So there is a net filtering force or net outward pressure that is normally equal to just what is called 10 millimeter mercury is chiefly responsible for. So the hydrostatic pressure of 55 minus the cumulative effect of opposition pressures 30 plus 15. The remainder is what is called actually the net filtering force or net outward pressure. And that is the one responsible for filtering the materials from the blood into the what is called the capsule. So anyway, the BP is always high, the glomerular capillaries. One pressure is existing in the blood, in the afferent arteriole, in the incoming blood, that is called the forward pressure. That pressure is opposed by two pressures together, that is called cumulative effect of opposition pressures. One is by BCOP of 30, another one is by, that is 15 millimeter mercury of what is called capsular hydrostatic pressure, the one which is created by the fluid collected in the capsule. Let's see in the picture what is happening. Now this is the one, you see that one, and this one indicates what is called the hydrostatic pressure or the forward pressure of 55 millimeter mercury. That is what is called the key, the glomerular hydrostatic pressure, the one which is created by the incoming blood. Now this is the afferent arteriole, this is the efferent arteriole. Now the second one, the colloidal protein found in the blood, this yellow color arrow marks indicating the pressure created by the blood colloidal osmotic pressure because of the proteins found in the blood, that is about 30 millimeter mercury. And then we have the capsular pressure, you see that one, the capsular pressure that is created by this one, the fluid collected here also creates some pressure against what is called the hydrostatic pressure of the blood. And that is what is called the capsular hydrostatic pressure. It is about 15 millimeter mercury. And these together, what is called the opposition pressure, they are opposing what is called this one. So that is why we have received the net filtering force or the net outward pressure of 110 millimeter mercury. And that is the one responsible for filtering various materials from the blood into the government's capsular cavity. So anyway, don't forget this one, 55, that is forward pressure. And then colloidal osmotic pressure, the opposing pressure, one of the opposing pressures, that is 30 millimeter mercury. Another opposing pressure is nothing but capsular hydrostatic pressure. Both together constitute, that is about 45 millimeter mercury. The remaining is what is called the net filtering force or net outward pressure, which is chiefly responsible for, that is the filtration of the materials, hence called the filtration pressure. The same picture was given in different manner here also. Now blood hydrostatic pressure, this one is moving towards, that is towards the capsule. The remaining two are moving towards what is called the blood. And these together constitute the opposing pressures against the incoming pressure of hydrostatic pressure created by the blood in the arterioles or the glomerular capillaries. So this is the incoming blood pressure, and these two are actually opposing the pressure created by the blood in the capillaries. So we have to see the net outward pressure of 10 millimeter mercury that is chiefly responsible for filtering various materials. Now what is glomerular filtration? So during filtration, certain amount of actual filtrate being produced per minute. So the volume of filtrate that is produced or formed or collected in the capsular cavity per minute is called what is known as glomerular filtration rate. So the volume of the glomerular filtrate formed or produced by the kidneys per minute is called glomerular filtration rate, GFR. It is normally about 125 ml per minute or 180 liters per day. So this is what is called glomerular filtration rate. amount or volume of filtrate produced per minute. Simply you can say the amount or volume of filtrate produced per minute or per day also we can calculate. Now we have to know about what is the role of juxtaglomerular apparatus. So to maintain or to regulate the glomerular filtration rate, the kidney has certain inbuilt mechanisms inside. And that one is called glomerular activity juxtaglomerular apparatus. This is an efficient mechanism responsible for regulating the glomerular filtration rate. And normally it is highly sensitive organ formed of the components what I mentioned in the picture 1. That is what is called juxtaglomerular cells. These cells are normally found in the wall of the afferent arterioles, modified smooth muscles responsible for the secretion of one hormone by name renin. So one of the components is renin secreting juxtaglomerular cells of the afferent arteriole. It is a modified smooth muscle cells. Then number 2, macula densa. What I present in the picture, macula densa. So it is nothing but actually cellular modification of what is called the distal convoluted tubule, or otherwise we can say the tubular epithelium is greatly modified to form a structure what is called macula densa. It is one of the components of juxtaglomerular apparatus. Now the last one, the lattice cells. These are all specialized glandular cells I mentioned already. They are formed. They are normally present at the vascular angle, normally formed by the afferent and efferent arterioles. So at the angle of the afferent and efferent arterioles, we have a cell what is called the lattice cells. So the juxtaglomerular cells, the macula densa cells or the distal convoluted tubule, and also the one which is present at the vascular angle of the afferent and efferent arterioles. Actually, the vascular angle is simply formed by the afferent and efferent. So, once they are entering into the glomerulus, there is an angle produced by them. That angle has the cells what are called the lattice cells. So, all these cells are responsible for regulating the glomerular filtration rate in the case of human kidney. Now, the next one, filtration fraction. So what do you mean by filtration fraction? So normally certain fraction of plasma passes through the kidneys. The one that is being filtered at the glomerulus. The fraction of plasma passing through the kidneys that is being filtered at the glomerulus is called filtration fraction. It is simply nothing but the percentage or volume of what is called plasma that is being filtered. Or we can say it is a ratio between what is called that is glomerular filtration rate and the filtration, actually the plasma flow rate. Plasma flow rate. The ratio between the glomerular filtration rate and the plasma flow rate, that is what is called simply the filtration fraction. So what is renal plasma flow? I mentioned just nearly 1100 1200 ml of blood reaches the kidney per minute. Out of this one, we have the plasma alone 625 milliliter. 625 milliliter. This is what's called renal plasma flow. Renal plasma flow. RPF. So RPF, renal plasma flow. This is nothing but the volume of plasma that reaches the kidneys per minute. This is also called plasma flow rate. Renal plasma flow or plasma flow rate. We already calculated what is called the glomerular filtration rate per minute. It's equivalent to 125 milliliter. Sorry, 125 milliliter. 125 milliliter. And this is what's called per minute. The ratio between what is called the glomerular filtration rate and the renal plasma flow is called filtration fraction. So you see that one, just we have the formula. Now it is a fraction of just actually the plasma passing through the kidneys, which is filtered in the glomerulus. That is actually the ratio of the glomerular filtration rate to renal plasma flow. So FF is equal to GFR, that is glomerular filtration rate divided by renal plasma flow. We already seen the renal plasma flow is about 625 ml per minute. Per minute, the amount of plasma that reaches the kidney. And also what we have the GFR, the glomerular filtration rate, the amount of filtrate that is produced per minute, that is 125 ml. So 125 by 625, that is equivalent to 0.20 or 20%. So filtration fraction is in a normal healthy individual is about 20%. It is the ratio between what is called glomerular filtration rate and the renal plasma flow. Don't forget, renal plasma flow is nothing but the volume of plasma that reaches the kidneys per minute. So the volume of the blood that reaches the kidneys is about 1100 to 1200 ml, out of which 625 ml alone the plasma, the remaining are nothing but the different components found in it. Now the second process, the major event responsible for reabsorbing almost all the materials from the filtrate. When you compare the amount of filtrate produced per minute or per day and the amount of materials reabsorbed, one can understand that nearly 99% of the filtrate being normally reabsorbed, because the amount of filtrate produced is equal to 180 liters per day. Out of this 180 liters, only 1.5 liters alone being excreted in the form of urine. The remaining what we have just nearly about 168.5 liters being reabsorbed. That means mostly nearly about 99% of almost all the materials are reabsorbed by the different parts of the nephron. Because the amount of filtrate formed is equal to 180 liters. Out of this 180 liters, only 1.5 liters of urine alone being excreted. The remaining being reabsorbed, that is about 99%. So the reabsorption occurs at different stages or different levels of the nephron, either in the proximal or in the what is called distal columnar tubule or the collecting tubule or in the Handler's lobe. Now the reabsorption is actually a selective process or a differential process. The meaning for that one, not all the materials being reabsorbed by the same mechanism. So selective process means whatever materials which are needed by the body are reabsorbed and others are excreted. Differential process means actually the different materials are reabsorbed in different mechanism. So it is by selective or differential process. Because of mechanism different, and also it is being selectively reabsorbed. Those materials which are needed by the body are reabsorbed and others are excreted. Now, what are the important materials normally reabsorbed? The most important materials that are reabsorbed nothing but the glucose, amino acids, sodium, just we have calcium, magnesium also, bicarbonate also. And others, some others, for example, hydrogen ions, ammonium ions, urea, uric acid, create all being excreted. And those materials which are reabsorbed by active transport, and those materials which are normally found in higher concentration in the filtrate than in the plasma are called high threshold substances. For example, if you are taking glucose, amino acids, sodium, calcium ions, etc., are called high threshold substances because their concentration is higher in the filtrate than in the plasma. Though the concentration is normally actually less in the filtrate than in the plasma. Though the concentration is higher in the plasma, we need badly all these substances. That is why they are being reabsorbed, though we have more and more in the plasma. So those substances which are found in lesser concentration in the filtrate and higher concentration in the plasma, and those which are being normally reabsorbed by active transport are called high threshold substances. The concentration is less in filtrate when compared to plasma, but we need them badly. That is why the body reabsorbs them again and again from the filtrate. And the nitrogenous waste materials like urea, uric acid, etc., they are called as low threshold substances. Low threshold substances because their concentration is normally actually higher in the filtrate than in the plasma. They are called low threshold substances. And these substances being reabsorbed by means of passive reabsorption or passive transfer. So those present lower concentration but absorbed actively are called actually high threshold substances. Those found in high concentration in the filtrate and they are being absorbed by passive transport are called low threshold substances. The examples are urea and uric acid. They are called low threshold. And some substances found in the filtrate are never being reabsorbed. They are called A-threshold substances. So an example of creatine, creatinine. It is a byproduct of creatine phosphate, a phosphogen found in the muscle. So creatinine is a waste product, an anhydrate of creatine. It is actually a derivative of creatine phosphate, a phosphogen found in the muscle responsible for the phosphorylation of actually ATP. So normally replenishment of ATP occurs in the muscles because of the phosphogen, namely creatine phosphate, and from that one, just actually creatine phosphate. From that one only we have received the base product creatinine. So this is never reabsorbed. Such substances are called A threshold. So those found in lesser concentration absorbed by active means are called high threshold. Those found in higher concentration in the filtrate but absorbed passively are called low threshold substances, and those which are found in the filtrate which are not being reabsorbed are called A threshold substances. The best example we have creatine, a base product of creatine phosphate, a phosphogen of muscle. Now tubular secretion, the final step. And it is an important step because those materials which have escaped filtration are carried away by the efferent artery, and it forms a second network of capillaries. They are connected to the different parts of the nephron, the tubular structures. The epithelial cells of the nephron at different places. They collect the waste products, those escaped from the filtration process, from the blood, and secrete them or excrete them into the filtrate. Such a process called tubular secretion or tubular excretion. So it is playing an important role in the unit formation because it is responsible for maintenance of ionic balance and base balance of what is called the body fluids. So mainly the hydrogen ions, potassium ions, the ammonia and urea all being actually excreted or secreted. Process nothing but actually describing the collection of waste products, those materials which have escaped filtration from the blood, and these epithelial cells of the nephron just secreting them into the filtrate already flowing through the lumen of the nephron, mainly that is the potassium ions, then hydrogen ions, and also you have urea and other harmful waste products including the drugs, antibiotics, etc. So drugs, antibiotics, hydrogen ions, even there is what is called ammonia, all being normally secreted. So collected from the blood, that is being secreted into the lumen of the fluid. That is the lumen of the nephron where you have the filtrate. So these materials are added to the filtrate because of the secretory activity of the epithelial cells or the excretory activity of the epithelial cells. That is very important in maintaining the pH of the blood or in maintaining the ionic balance and base balance of the body fluids. There is a role of tubular. Now, I mentioned about the reabsorption process. The reabsorption is not uniform in different parts of the nephron. And some parts of the nephron are playing active role in reabsorption process and some others not. So let's see that actually the reabsorption process at different parts of the nephron, or we can say the function of the different parts of the tubule. Let's take the first one, the first part of the nephron after the Bowman's capsule. We have the highly coiled tubule, namely the proximal convoluted tubule. It is a place where major substances are being reabsorbed. For example, sodium ions, the bicarbonates, the glucose, amino acids, all being reabsorbed. Some materials, for example, the hydrogen ions, potassium ions, ammonia, all being secreted into the fluid. So anyway, it is normally having a structure that is lined with epithelial cells, and the peculiarity of the epithelial cells, particularly they are made up of cuboidal epithelium. The cuboidal epithelial cells, their free borders are brush-like in appearance, hence called brush border cells. They increase the area of what is called the reabsorption process. That is a peculiarity. It's one of the questions also. PCD is lined with simple cuboidal epithelial cells with brush border. And normally they increase the surface area of absorption. I mentioned already almost all the useful substances, maybe glucose amino acids, and nearly 70 to 80% of the electrolytes, sodium bicarbonates, magnesium, calcium, along with water being reabsorbed. So important materials, 70 to 80% of the electrolytes, maybe sodium, calcium, magnesium, the bicarbonate ions, along with water being reabsorbed by this segment. So what is its role? It helps to maintain the pH, as in the case of the previous one. Almost all are responsible for maintaining the ionic balance and pH of the blood. So it helps to maintain the pH and ionic balance of the body fluids. How? By selective secretion of what I mentioned earlier, the hydrogen ions, potassium ions, and ammonia into the filtrate, and promoting the absorption of sodium in the form of sodium bicarbonate and also in the form of sodium chloride. So the main role of proximal convolutubular basically is to maintain the pH of the body fluids by just promoting the absorption of sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate, and just actually promoting the secretion of potassium ions. And also we have just ammonia along with hydrogen ions, because the urine is always acidic. This is because of the secretion of hydrogen ions by the different parts of the nephron. Particularly, for example, we have the proximal convoluted tubule. It secretes hydrogen ions along with the potassium and also urea along with ammonia. So thus maintaining the pH of the blood, maintaining the ionic balance of the blood and body fluids. Now here is nothing but a segment of proximal convoluted tubule cell. So this is one cell, one of the cells, only one cell is exposed. Now this is the lumen of the proximal convolutubular, and this is what we call the blood vessel adjacent to the proximal convolutubular cell. And I mentioned already, see normally what is the source of hydrogen ion? Mainly carbon dioxide is the source of hydrogen ion. Because once actually carbon dioxide enters into the blood, it combines with water to form carbonic acid. It is an unstable compound, immediately dissociates to form bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. Now the newly formed hydrogen ions are simply just secreted. You see that one by spending energy. So I mentioned ATP. At the same time, sodium ions along with the bicarbonate is reabsorbed by means of active transport mechanism. So sodium ions and bicarbonate ions are reabsorbed, and hydrogen ions are secreted by the cells by spending energy. I mentioned this ATP molecule, meaning for that one, it's being spent. So that's why it's an active process. Any process which requires the amount of energy is called an active process. So here hydrogen ions are secreted into the lumen and sodium ions are reabsorbed by spending energy. Once normally sodium ions are reabsorbed, now the sodium ions are transported to the blood. You see that one. At the same time, the hydrogen ions present in the blood also reaches, because of what I mentioned, those materials which have escaped filtration. One such is nothing with the hydrogen ion transported by the peritubular capillaries, and they are all connected to the epithelial cells. So that when the hydrogen ions from the blood enters this epithelial cell, from which it is being secreted into the lumen by spending energy. So these are all happening. Sodium ions from the lumen enters in the cell, from where it reaches the blood. Hydrogen ions formed in the cell as well as from the blood reaches the cell, and that is being secreted, not excreted, not actually normally released, secreted or excreted by these cells into the lumen of what is called the proximal convoluted tubule. So we have hydrogen ions are secreted and sodium ions are reabsorbed, and that is very important for maintaining the pH of the blood. Suppose you have more and more hydrogen ion concentration, the pH of the blood will decrease. That is being compensated by excreting or secreting what's called hydrogen ions by the epithelial cells. Now the second one, Handler's rule. What is the role of Handler's rule? So proximal convolutubular is responsible for reabsorption of most of the materials. Now what is the role of Handler's rule? Now the reabsorption of materials at this level is very minimal. So only 20% of what is called the electrolytes and 25% of water will be reabsorbed in this one. But this region is playing an important role simply in maintaining the osmolarity of the medullary interstitial fluid. So you see that one in the medullary region, outside the nephron, we have interstitial fluid. It is also called medullary interstitium, the place where you have the fluid is accumulated in between the nephrons. Now, for maintaining high osmolarity in the medullary interstitium, the Handler's loops are responsible. So they are responsible for maintaining a high osmolarity of what is called the medullary interstitial fluid. Now, if you are taking actually just the different regions, we have seen already the nephrons, the descending limb, which is normally thin, then ascending limb, which is differentiated into the first part, thin ascending limb, and followed by thick ascending limb. That understood. Now, if you compare these regions, the thin descending limb is normally more permeable to water, and it shows actually less permeability or low permeability to ions and also urea and also almost normally impermeable to electrolytes. Similarly, we can see this region is more permeable to water and then impermeable to electrolytes, including sodium. So, as a result, actually more and more water leaves, that is the descending limb of Handler's rule. The solution becomes more concentrated. When it reaches the lower part, it becomes more hypertonic. So the tonicity of the filtrate has increased. This is because of the reabsorption of water, and there is no reabsorption of electrolytes. So only the what is called the dispersion phase, that is only the solvent alone being reabsorbed. That is why we can say it is more permeable to water. And the filtrate retains the solids, maybe the different kinds of electrolytes. This is because of the impermeability of the epithelial cells. So that we have actually this region is permeable to water and impermeable to electrolytes and also the various kinds of ions, including urea also. As a result, the concentration of the filtrate increases when it reaches the lower part of the Handler's lobe, just in the inner medulla region, where we have higher osmolarity or we have higher tonicity. So the solution becomes more and more hypertonic when it reaches the lower part of what is called descending. This is because of impermeability of electrolytes and permeability of water. Now, thin ascending. So the thin ascending and thick actually ascending, these two are normally impermeable to water. The first one is permeable to water. Now these two regions are impermeable to water, but they are permeable to electrolytes. So what I mentioned here is that one thin ascending limb. So it is impermeable to water, but permeable to ions and electrolytes. The same is the case in the case of thick ascending limb. This is also impermeable to water. And normally this region, thick ascending limb region is also called diluting region, diluting fluid region, because the osmolarity or the tonicity decreases when it is reaching what is called the last part of the tubule, maybe the distal convoluted. This is because of the transport of electrolytes. So this region is more permeable to electrolytes. So this region normally allows the transport of electrolytes how? By a secretory active transport mechanism. By secretory active transport. By what is called actually one mechanism, sodium potassium chloride co-transporter. Because of actually whenever sodium is transported, chloride is also transported and potassium is excreted. This is what is called sodium potassium chloride co-transporter system. So anyway, now this region allows us transport of electrolytes by selective what is called by selective and secretory active transport mechanism. Selective secretory active transport mechanism. The secretory active transport is called the process. The mechanism is by sodium potassium chloride co-transporter mechanism or by means of even passive transport also. Now because of the electrical and then what is called the concentration gradient, electrical difference, the concentration gradient difference, and this one drives more reabsorption of sodium and other cations. Now this region is more permeable to sodium ions and other cations, particularly calcium and magnesium. So except in potassium, calcium, magnesium and potassium, sodium ions are reabsorbed. Actually these regions are normally allowed to leave from the filtrate so that reabsorption takes place at a higher rate. And as a result, when the solution is reaching the upper part of the ascending limb, it becomes diluted. It is having low osmolarity when compared to what is called the lower part, where you have higher concentration or hypertonicity. When it is reaching above, then it becomes hypotonic in nature. This is because of the sodium potassium chloride co-transporter mechanism by means of active transport, also called secretory active transport mechanism by spending energy. So because of the following events, because of what is called the reabsorption of electrolytes at the ascending limb, either with a thin or thick, what will happen? The concentrated filtrate passes up. When it passes up, it becomes diluted. This is because of the passage of electrolytes. More and more electrolytes leave the filtrate. So that once the filtrate reaches what is called the upper part or upward region of the ascending limb, it loses its hypertonicity. So it becomes diluted. So it loses its hypertonicity and becomes diluted. So this is because of the passage of electrons. The electrons are moving away. That's why the concentration of the filtrate decreases. And what about acting the distal convoluted tubule? So here conditional reabsorption of, so whether there is a necessity, then only the sodium and water being reabsorbed. But in the case of proximal convertible, automatically sodium and water being reabsorbed. But here the reabsorption of these four on conditional basis. When there is a need, only they are normally reabsorbed, or else they are being normally excreted. And this is the region where you have also the reabsorption of bicarbonates. Whenever sodium reabsorbed along with either chloride bicarbonate ions are reabsorbed. And this region is also selective secretion of what I mentioned, the harmful materials like the hydrogen ions, potassium ions, and also ammonia. And these are all secreted into the filtrate by this region, by the epithelial cells of the distal convoluted tubule, as in the case of proximal. So sodium, water reabsorption, as in the case of, for example, proximal convoluted tubule, and also secretion of hydrogen ions, potassium ions, and also ammonia, as in the case of proximal. These are all the harmful materials that are being excreted. Now I want to conclude the last part, the collecting duct. So here the collecting duct is a place of reabsorption of water. Large amount of water being reabsorbed, but the reabsorption of water is based on what is called the hormonal effect. So the absorption of water is greatly influenced by the ADH hormone secreted by the posterior pituitary, or the antidiuretic hormone. Now, the release of ADH is under the control of the osmoreceptor cells of the hypothalamus. So this hormone is secreted in response to changes in the osmotic concentration or the osmotic pressure. The osmotic concentration or osmotic pressure of the plasma circulating through the collecting tubules. So if the more water is available in the collecting tubular structures surrounding where you have the blood capillaries, where you have more water is present in the capillaries, now the secretion of ADH is decreased. When you have less amount of water in the capillaries surrounding the collecting duct, then the secretion of ADH is increased. That's why I said actually it is in response to change in the osmotic pressure of the availability of water is responsible for creating the osmotic pressure of the plasma, the one which is circulating through the capillaries of the collecting tubule. They're all surrounding the collecting tubule. So according to the concentration of water, availability of water in the capillaries, the secretion of ADH is normally produced, either increase or decrease. That's why in the collecting duct, the amount of water absorption depends on mainly just actually the ADH hormone. So, and I want to conclude with this one, just proceed further. So this one also allows a passage a small amount of urea from the filtrate into what is called the interstitium of the medulla to maintain what is called the medullary osmotic concentration. So to keep up the osmolarity of the medullary interstitium, there is a fluid available in the medullary region, and this is responsible for enhancing the concentration gradient in the medullary interstitium. So by a small amount of urea is also being just reabsorbed and enters into what is called the medullary interstitium, the place where you have the fluid collection is there in between the nephrons. So anyway, this is also playing major in maintaining the pH and ionic balance of the body fluids by eliminating or secreting the hydrogen ions and also the potassium ions, etc. And all these are responsible for not only increasing the concentration of the urine, but also just keeping the pH of the blood constant. That is why the ionic balance. That's why you can also say the kidneys are concerned with osmoregulation, maintaining the water content of the body, maintaining the ionic balance, maintaining the what is called potassium ion concentration and the balance between the potassium and what is called sodium concentration. And now this is the picture showing how far the various materials being reabsorbed. Water represents, see that one, water reabsorption occurs and potassium is also actually reabsorbed, but it's being excreted soon. So this is what is called the secretion. This is also the secretion, and these are all the moving out, the arrow marks moving away from what is called the tubule represent the reabsorption process. The arrow marks moving into it representing what is called the secretion process. Now here you see that water being reabsorbed. Here the sodium chloride is being reabsorbed. So this region is permeable to electrolyte, this region is permeable to water, and these two regions are working in antagonistic way, in opposite way, in a countercurrent mechanism is operating, and that is responsible for making the urine formation and keeping the concentration of what is called the urine higher, and also maintaining the pH and ionic balance of that is the blood. And I mentioned also small amount of urea is also moving away from the collecting tubule, and that is responsible for maintaining the osmolarity of this medium. This is a medium what is called the inner medullary interstices, the place in between the nephrons filled with what is called tissue fluid, and that is because of the urea passage, small concentration from what is called the collecting tubules. So now I will complete this one. We will continue further in the next.